Well, guys, this is the Unity Peace Patrol news broadcast on the 22nd of May 2015. We have an urgent call out from our friend in need. Take it away, mate.
You got a friend in need. You got a friend in need. You got your troubles, and I got them too, but there isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We stick together and we see it through, yeah. You got a friend in me. Got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Hang on a minute.
What's that?
You haven't done a second verse.
Yeah. Oh, you got to scroll down, haven't you?
Right. I'll take it away from here. Some of the banks might be a little smarter than I am. Bigger and stronger too, maybe. But none of them will ever love you. Take it away, Stace.
None of them will ever know love the way we do with the sad bully boys.
And as the years go by, our unity will never die. You're gonna see it's our destiny, yeah. You got a friend in need. You got a friend in need, and it's me, Reese.
Indeed, indeed, it's Reese that's up for the chop, ladies and gents. Whoever's listening, even our friends at GCHQ, have an urgent call out for boots on the ground in our Stoke on Trent. in Stoke on Trent, and there'll be more details going up on some of these pages and everywhere else. But indeed, we do have a friend in need. Lots and lots and lots of corruption going on with this case. Job centres and housing associations working hand in hand. What do you make of this, Michael?
Yeah, this seems to be a common thread in a lot of eviction cases, Stacey. I mean, I've come across it where the housing officers have colluded with a local job centre to get somebody out of a property. Now, strictly speaking, that is unlawful. I mean, this came sharply into focus with a case that went through the High Court in 2013. The actual judgment wasn't handed down until the 14th of October last year. Now, if anybody wants to go onto Bailey, which is a repository of case law, you can find that at www.bailey.org. And Bailey spelled B-A-I-L-I-I. And that covers Ireland and also England and Wales. And there is a small part in there for Scottish law as well. The piece of case law I'm going to mention in particular is one called AA versus London Borough of Southwark 2014. What happened there was a gentleman who had lived in the UK for some considerable time. He was originally from Somalia, and his landlord, the London Borough of Southwark, I mean, he got into a bit of bother with his rent, and it got to the point where 3 housing officers decided they would evict him at whatever the cost. Now, there are very, very strict rules that had to be followed by social landlords under a set of rules called the Civil Procedures Rules. Now, these are basically the procedures that have to be followed when you're litigating a civil case, and it applies to legal professionals and also lay representatives and also defendants and claimants. And when Judge Thornton, who was the judge who presided over this case, looked, he found that a lot of things had not been complied with. Now, Now, one of the things that weren't complied with was because a particular order had expired. In order to reactivate it, the housing officer had to go back to the court and get permission from the judge to reactivate it. They didn't. So they were basically acting with an order that had expired. They were acting completely unlawfully. They managed to get him out. He had to go to court to sort something out. While they were doing that, they were clearing out his flat. Now, the law is that they are supposed to make an inventory and transfer it to storage. Not that. These three decided what they would do is they would send it to a waste disposal facility where all of his possessions were destroyed. He was on the streets for a year. Eventually, he managed to get this before the Queen's Bench at the High Court. And basically, to cut a long story short, London Borough of Southwark cut the floor. They were used as a floor cloth. Yeah, that's putting it mildly. The damages they tried to London Borough of Southwark tried to fob this guy off with about just under £7,000. But what they ended up with were damages much, much higher than that, considerably higher than that. There were 3 housing officers, one of them a manager. There was an investigation by a retired policeman, and he found there had been some form of malfeasance going on. But these 3 housing officers lied to this chap who was carrying out the investigation. When it came out in court, the Judge Thornton more or less said, and it's in the judgment, that there had been civil conspiracy, and there had also been misfeasance in public office on the part of these 3 housing officers. Now, I spoke at the time. I spoke to a friend of mine who has recently retired as a barrister, and one of her specialities was employment law. If an employee who is also a public servant or a civil servant has a finding by a court of misfeasance in public office or malfeasance in public office against them, the chance of them ever obtaining paid employment again is virtually zero. It's a very, very serious judgment to have made against you. It means you have broken the trust of the public, and the trust of the public has put it in you to such an extent that you basically cannot be trusted ever again. So these 3 local government officers, these 3 housing officers, will more than likely face the rest of their lives on job seekers allowance because the chances of them ever getting work is very, very remote. But this is the sort of that's the extreme end of the wedge. But there are areas of the country where it's becoming blindingly obvious that what is going on is that there is collusion between the job centres and the social landlords to engineer a situation where a tenant is displaced or evicted. Now, that sort of behaviour for a civil servant is very, very serious. They can lose their job. They can go to prison for it, and so can the others. But really and truly, if any civil servants are listening, including our friends at GCHQ, you might like to tell your friends in the Department for Work and Pensions and their psychopathic Secretary of State, this cheating, this making up of sanctions has got to stop, because these people are being encouraged to commit crimes, and they're crimes that carry a very substantial custodial sentence, and some of them carry a custodial sentence of up to 10 years in prison. It's not clever, even though they may think they're being clever. These targets, as always, encourage criminal behaviour. That's what's happening. So if you're there at GCHQ, please tell your colleagues at the DWP to stop it, because otherwise people are going to come after them, and they won't beat them up, but they will make damn sure they get stand in front of a judge and they get what's coming to them. Indeed,
because it is criminal at the end of the day. I've just quickly done a little bit of research into corrupt councils, even though this is a housing association. This is something that's quite shocking. I've just looked, this was back in 2012, a lady in Stoke-on-Trent, she basically made some kind of complaint to environmental health regarding pollution coming off a lubricant manufacturer in the area, and the response of the staff was not to formally respond, but to emergency refer the family to social services.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing they do. That's misfeasance in public office. Now, where in AA versus London Borough of Southwark, what happened there is it was found that the housing officers had breached the European Convention on Human Rights. Now,
I'm going to bring this up so people can see it for themselves and know
yeah.
what.
Now, under Section 6 of the Human Rights Act, there is a provision within it that says a public authority or a person whose function is known to be public commits any act which is incompatible with a person's convention rights, that's under the European Convention on Human Rights, then that act is unlawful. Action can be taken to remedy it in the civil courts.
This is how easy it is, guys. European Convention on Human Rights, yeah. This is what Mr. Rowe is talking about, who I affectionately call our human library. You Google it in here, and it will come up in a PDF. Always go to the PDF because you can download it and save it and whatnot.
European Convention on Human Rights. Now, a lot of people say, oh yes, but it's European. No, it's not. It was actually drafted by the British in the aftermath of World War One. And for those fans who are watching who are fans of the Magna Carta, somebody asked me about the Magna Carta one evening, and I looked into these articles, and I found a lot of them, the wording of those and corresponding ones of the Magna Carta, the wording is more or less identical. So what those who drafted this convention, and conventions are instruments of international law which protect. A treaty is a completely different kettle of fish. That's a political or trade agreement, but this is all conventions like Geneva Convention, European Convention, Vienna Convention. They protect.
In regards to Rees, it's not Rees himself, it's his father. There's a lot of articles that have been breached here. There's Article 1, obligation to respect human rights. Another one, Article 2 is right to life.
Yeah,
Article
the one that comes up a lot, Stacey, is Article 6, which is the right to a fair trial. It's also.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. Also, that one also says that if the state should, in dealing with your affairs, do so in a timely manner, that means not keep you waiting about 6 months. So you can have a go at the job centre with that one and say, oh, by the way, that's a breach of Article 6, and oh yeah, because you're a public authority, that means you're a breach of Section 6 of the Human Rights Act. And you should see their face when you tell them that.
No punishment without law. But in the regards to the eviction, there's the right to respect for private and family life.
Yeah, Article 8 is very, very important. Now, there is one.
Article 13 is a very big one in this case, right to an effective remedy. Because there was remedy going on and they still went ahead.
I think you'll find with that one. I don't know if the British government has ratified that one, but they tried to leave it over the Human Rights Act. But there are authorities, very eminent human rights lawyers, who say, well, it doesn't make any difference because the other articles quite clearly state that you can't do that. You cannot not ratify it.
What about Article 28 in Protocol 2? It says competence of committees. Because charity-run organisations have a committee, don't they?
Oh no, that's committee. I think that's committees of the European Court of Human Rights.
Yeah.
Because there was a bit just before you took that off. It said powers of the Grand Chamber. For those who are familiar with human rights, in Europe you've got the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. The upper chamber of that is called the Grand Chamber. There are 47 signatories to the European Convention on Human Rights, and those include, believe it or not, Switzerland, which is a neutral country, and Russia.
Mhm.
Nobody could believe Russia is a signatory to it. But of course, they were attacked by the Nazis during World War II, and they signed up to it after the war. So they are one of the 47 signatories. Now, the judges that sit in the cup are drawn from all over the European Union, and it's a rule, and it's a fair rule, that if your country is in the dock, you are not allowed to have judges from your own country sitting in judgment. So you've got they're picked from the 47 countries that make up the Council of Europe, which are these 47 countries that signed the convention. The only problem we've got really are those in the British government, and particularly the Tories, who don't like it. They don't like the European Convention on Human Rights because, according to them, why should we have European judges telling us what to do? Well, the answer is very simple. It's because the United Kingdom government is one of the biggest offenders for breaching the European Convention on Human Rights. I mean, out of all the 47 countries, they are, on average, send 10 cases a year, either were or are, before the court in Strasbourg. Now, these days, they only go over to Strasbourg, where the Supreme Court in this country cannot make a decision. Normally, a lot of cases end up, the highest they go is the Supreme Court, and that's it, because it's normally resolved by the time it gets to there. But those that can't, those end up at Strasbourg in, about 10 a year. Others, sometimes they're lucky if you get 1 or 2 a year, sometimes 3 or 4.
You see,
Britain hasn't got a very good record where compliance with the European Convention on Human Rights is concerned.
See, even earlier on today, guys, I mean, I'll even talk about my own personal, I don't care. See, my husband, Daniel, he's actually really badly dyslexic. And basically, I shown him a letter before he literally went out the door to go back out to work. I gave him this letter and said, oh yeah, do you mind opening that? Because obviously it's illegal for me to open his mail. Opened it, and he went, oh my God, it's an eviction notice. I knew differently. And I went, no, it's not. And I said, no, it's just a gentle reminder about, I think we're a week behind with our rent. So I said, no, we've already paid it, so it doesn't matter. But I phoned the council up to let them know. And when I mentioned about Daniel being dyslexic, they kind of got backed into a corner, put it that way, because they've never ever been told that he was dyslexic. My question is, well, we spoke to our normal housing officer, and I've told her on numerous occasions that Daniel's dyslexic.
Oh dear. That means they are in breach of the Equality Act 2010. Because, as such, they are legally obliged to make reasonable adjustments or allowances to accommodate either a learning difficulty or a disability. Now, dyslexia is recognised under the Equality Act 2010 as a learning difficulty and a disability. So, really and truly, the council in your case, Stacey, they need to get their act together, because the maximum fine under the Act is a fine of up to £20,000. If there's any of them listening, that's quite a lot of money, and you're going to have to explain that to the chief executive of the council if the council gets fined. So
exactly.
Get your gluteus maximuses into gear and kind of start complying with the Equality Act. It doesn't take much. In many cases, a lot of these reasonable adjustments or allowances can be accommodated very, very easily. And all it is to make sure a person is treated fairly, and where they do have difficulties, like a person with dyslexia has, yes, it makes it easier for them, but it also makes it easier for the staff, so they're not kind of getting into a situation where they say, oh, well, this person's done this and this, and then they suddenly find out. When it gets, say, like to a court, the person says, well, I'm dyslexic, I can't even read this, and the judge turns around and blows a gasket. A lot of judges don't like that sort of thing.
No, see, this is what, I mean, obviously in this case, well, in a lot of cases, I mean, I've come across people, I dealt with an eviction a couple of months ago, and the lady was dyslexic. She said, you can read the words, fine, but it's the actual understanding, and it's
That's
not.
right.
And dyslexia doesn't just go as far as people looking at reading and writing and spelling. It's actual auditory, which I was only made aware of a couple of months ago, which actually coincides with what Daniel's got, you know. So if anyone out there, I mean, even our friends at GCHQ, you know, are listening, there's people out there. Dyslexia doesn't fall under just reading and writing, guys. It falls under listening, not listening, but actually taking in what the relevant key information. So if I asked Dan about different civil jurisdiction, he'd freak. But if I said to him what kind of law, he'd understand a little bit, and it'd take me about 10 times to bloody explain.
Yeah, it's with dyslexia, it can affect not only the written word, it can also affect the spoken word. It's the brain. It's the way the brain processes the information.
Indeed, it does.
People who haven't got dyslexia, they're very lucky because the brain processes it in microseconds. But with a dyslexia, because the wiring is, I believe it's the wiring inside the brain is basically what an electrician got up there was much worse for wear for the amateur actor, and miswired it. And which means that the bit that kind of interprets and perceives written and spoken word doesn't work as well as it should. Now, there's a case I'm dealing with a young lady who is badly dyslexic, like your Dan, and she's got a certain bailiff company kind of giving her a hard time. And when she came to me with her case, I thought, hold on a minute, why weren't the courts aware of this? And of course, Article 6 comes in, right for a fair trial, right for a fair hearing.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing as well, the Equality Act 2010, they would need an advocate to be there to speak for them because of trying to express themselves. One thing that is I've noticed with a lot of dyslexics, and this is not a criticism, because of the stigma that society attaches to it, they're very reluctant to say they're dyslexic. Because people will say, "Oh, no, you're not. You're thick, or you're slow, or you're stupid." They're not actually. Dyslexics actually are very, very intelligent people. I'll give you a few examples. Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom, Tom Cruise. They're all dyslexic. William Hewlett.
They're very, very, very successful.
Very successful. No, William Hewlett. No, most people you say that name, they say, who the hell's he? Well, if you bought Hewlett Packard computers and printers, well, William Hewlett is the Hewlett in that. He was dyslexic.
Yeah.
And the one guy who was dyslexic, badly dyslexic to the point that it was debilitating, was a guy called Chris Croy, who's an American. And he was the pioneer of wireless communications. Now, if it hadn't been for his vision and he had a very, very high IQ, we would never have had mobile phones.
Yeah.
So anybody who's got dyslexia who is listening into this broadcast, including GCHQ, you're not thick, you're not stupid, you're actually very, very intelligent, and be proud of it. I mean, there is help out there. You've got bodies like Dyslexia UK, Dyslexia Action. I mean, they're there to help you if you need it. I mean, ask for it. I say it's a lot. The help you need is out there. All you need to do is ask, and you'll get it.
See, this is another way of speaking of people's brains being wired differently. We have a corporate company called McDonald's. Everybody's heard of them. But the thing is, they haven't been given out very many Happy Meals, guys. We've got a landscape gardener who claims that McDonald's refused to serve him because he looked like a homeless person.
Well, that's discrimination.
Of course it is. But do they give a shit?
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to make a remark about that.
But look, it even says a not so happy meal. There's no reason to assume I lived on the streets. But this is because he came in. He came into McDonald's. He's a landscape gardener, so you can imagine he's a bit bogging. His knees are dirty. He's been out in the sun all day. He's a bit sweaty. You know what I mean? So they've assumed that he's homeless. But there's a kind act of a teenager here who tries to buy elderly homeless man a breakfast at McDonald's, but is told homeless people cannot be served under the new policy. There was one case in Manchester. Charlotte Barrow 19, this is the lovely young lady here who's got a really big heart. She saw the man while walking past the McDonald's on Oxford Road in Manchester on her way to work and decided to stop and buy him some food. The pair queued up inside the fast food chain, and when the homeless man tried to take some of his own money out in preparation to pay for his food, Farrow stopped him and told him she would be paying. Then Farrow said she was told about the policy by the restaurant supervisor. He said the business manager told they weren't allowed to serve homeless people. They said it was a new policy. Yeah. I mean, I'm not being funny here, right? If you're a big £1 million like company, like fair enough that you can't be picky and choosy on who puts money in your pocket at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that young woman who decided to buy that homeless person a meal. I mean, I'll teach them. I can't help having but the utmost respect for her. That shows somebody who is a human being and is showing humanity and empathy, which cannot be said for McDonald's. I mean,
I used to love them.
Buys a Happy Meal. What they do with it afterwards is entirely up to them, because once that cash goes in that cash register and they close it, that's it. They cannot do what you do with that meal.
See, McDonald's have had bad press. I mean, I've looked and I've read and I've researched. I mean, their workers have done all sorts to the food. I mean, I won't repeat some of the stuff I've seen on air.
I've heard them referred to as McDonald's Muppets. To be honest, some of the things that are being done by, I think it's Stacey, it's a small minority within McDonald's that come out with these silly things. I mean, a Muppet's got more intelligence than they have. I mean, come on, McDonald's, do yourselves a favour and get rid of these idiots. You don't need them. You could do without them. Your staff would be a lot happier, a lot more productive, and it would do your public image a lot more good. So just get rid of these politically correct idiots.
See, these two, this landscape gardener and this young lady, have both said they're boycotting. Well, tell you what, you two, I've already joined that, and I might even do a social experiment. I might go in looking homeless, what I perceive as homeless, and see if they serve me in my local McDonald's.
I'll go in dressed as a minion and see if they serve you.
A homeless minion.
Yeah, those minions from Despicable Me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would look funny. No, I don't go into McDonald's.
No.
There's a number of reasons. One, I've got a very bad reaction to wheat, and possibly gluten as well. And if I had one of their burger baths, I'd probably end up being taken to A&E.
Yeah, exactly.
There's certain, and also some of the sauces they use wheat as a thickener because it's cheap.
Yeah.
Again, that would affect me. There is where I am in Plymouth. We have got a market, a public market at the west end of the city centre, and in there they got food. They have got cafes, but they've got two food stalls in there. One is an Afro-Caribbean food stall called the Afro-Caribbean Pot. I think it's run by a lady from Africa and her partner, and they do some of the most beautiful food there is. There's a lot of sort of curries in it, curry powder and turmeric and things like that. But some of the things they do, I mean, you get vegetables, sweet potatoes, fish, things like that. And then on the same sort of island, just around the corner, you've got one called A Taste of Thailand. They do Thai food, and you've got the famous Thai green curry. You've got Thai noodle soup. They do stir fries. They do all sorts. And this one thing I've noticed with both these, with the Afro-Caribbean and the Thai diet, there's a lot of vegetables in it, and they're vegetables that are very rich in nutrients and vitamins and essential minerals. And I mean, I did ask one of the girls in the Thai place, and I said, there seems to be a lot of vegetables. She said, yes. She said the Thai diet is made up a lot of vegetables, which is why they're so healthy.
I was going to say, like, I'm just like getting a bit of a conclusion here, because I've actually looked and looked and looked. Like, there's a lot of healthy foods out there, like Thai, but like with this McDonald's, some of the stuff that they have in their food, it's like, what? They have wood chip in some of their burgers.
Yeah. Well,
and it wouldn't surprise you, would it? I mean,
no. Well, when they opened a Thai restaurant, also this Taste of Thailand in Plymouth Market, I mean, the people in Plymouth are taking to it in a big way. And when this the African lady and her partner owned Afro-Caribbean Pots, which is the Afro-Caribbean food stall, that is taken off in a, well, I think they can't believe that it's taken off in such a big way. I mean, even I eat there. I mean, if you don't get there by a certain time, you were lucky if you can get a seat. It's if you can't, too bad. But there is another little cafe just over the other side of the market called the Ladybird Bakery, which sells gluten-free stuff. They sell gluten-free cake, which they make on the premises, gluten-free bread, quiche, bread rolls, little cupcakes. They make those as well, gluten-free. Yeah, I think she's been going a few months. She started off in a small stall, and things just suddenly took off. And in the end, she had to kind of move to this shop unit, and then take over the upstairs, which is the bakery. It kind of took off in about 3 or 4 months, and she said, "I can't believe it." But yeah, this is it. People are going over to much more healthier foods, and of course, it's there if you look for it.
The thing is, as well, you know, I mean, I'm just trying to go back to this McDonald's thing, because it's like, I'm just thinking, you know, I mean, I've seen there's a guy called Jack Jones TV, Michael. He's quite funny, actually. He's in America at the moment, and but he's always been in London, and when he's in London, he goes up to people and he does good deeds. Like I mean, at Easter he gave like loads of people like Easter eggs, like homeless people Easter eggs, and he gave other random people them as well. And like he went up to people like he's gone up to homeless people and like given them McDonald's. Do you know what I mean? Trying to promote their image, and this comes back and slams them, and this kind of articles have come back and slammed them. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, what's the world coming to when you can't help your fellow human being? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing I've noticed down here, the council do try not to give money to anybody who is homeless, but no harm. I think they've come to the conclusion of buying them a meal is perfectly okay. Because, because obviously if that person can be given something to eat, it means at least they've got something, they've got some nourishment, and they've got some fluid inside them, so they're not going to become a statistic on their way to A&E. I can see I mean, there's where a lot of them kind of hang about at the top end of Cornwall Street with a pasty shop. You know, go in the little alleyway along the side there, people just buy them a pasty, give them a pasty, and you think it was Christmas. They're great. They're very, very great. I mean, these people, a lot of them are ex-servicemen who've basically been crapped on by the government. I mean, you've got this new Armed Services Covenant. I mean, yeah, the reality is the government just seem to think, oh well, we'll just comply with it if we feel like it. No, these people have lost their limbs. They've nearly lost their lives. They've come back with psychological issues because of what happened.
It's like, I mean, I tell you, I mean, there's another operation in Manchester who's absolutely brilliant, and I really want to interview him. Is Wesley PP Hall? He runs, I think he runs it. It's well, there's something to do with Manchester Angels, but he actually goes on to do these protests, helping people, not protests. I mean, people go up to people and go, "Oh, you go get a job." He put up a status the other day that said on social media, and it said, you know, like someone was like, "I'll go get a job to these protesters," and he says, "We're trying to fight." The protester was saying, "Look, we're trying to fight in a really peaceful way to stop people like you and me losing our jobs and being out, ultimately being out on the street." And he just went, "Oh," and the guy joined in, and he was like, "Well, I took a day off work to come and help."
Yeah, well, once you educate them, then yes, and they understand, you'd be surprised what difference it makes. I mean, Wesley, I've got a lot of respect for him. He's done a hell of a lot of good in Manchester, and it's just a pity that a certain police force doesn't recognise that and decides it's clever too.
Oh, is it Sir Peter Farthead by any chance?
Yes, GMP. I could tell you what GMP means, but it's certainly not Greater Manchester Police. By that, if there's any GMP officers listening to this, there's certain factions of your force that really and truly you might think of sort of kicking. We know there's a lot of officers who are in the police service at the moment. They're good, decent, honest people. They've got to put up with some senior officers who really and truly should do the decent thing and resign. But they've also got some other colleagues who are, I wouldn't give the time of day to. Now, the Met, I mean, Hogan Howe decided to send these officers out to seize the possessions of homeless people until he found out that it was unlawful for him to do that, and he was left with egg on his face, and he had to go on TV and more or less grovel. Well, he should have thought about that before he went. He went out and did such a stupid thing.
See, this is the way I look at it, Michael, is the fact that these people, have been really, I tell you what, these homeless people have been given such a hard time. It's because they're demonising the Tories, i.e. Iggle Piggle. I hope you're fucking listening to this. You're demonising decent people that did have a life and did have jobs and did contribute to your New World Order society and doing a decent thing. I don't know how you could be doing a decent thing by contributing to a New World Order society or a New Britain Order society. But these people have like lost their jobs. Like they just it is through no fault of their own. They've never claimed a benefit in their life. Some of them, so they don't know how the system works. And I mean, I'm not gonna shame Citizens Advice, but some of the people that work there have actually been known to give people the wrong advice. I'm not saying all of them, because my local one's quite good. I don't know about you, Michael, but
there have been cases where CAB have given very bad advice. I mean, when I was the first few months I was with the bailiffs and the banks, somebody came to me and said what had happened, and when I looked at it, CAB had given the most appalling advice. They should never have given the advice they gave. And I said, get onto CAB headquarters straight away, because this woman had a CCJ against her for quite a large sum of money. And even CAB themselves admitted, they said that is not the advice that they should have been given out in this case. So yes, I think even CAB headquarters themselves acknowledge that yes, that mistakes are made and bad advice is given at times.
See, this is the thing. This is what I mean. A lot of people on these like these bailiff watching advice, bailiff unit patrol, beat the bailiffs in the banks. There's loads of different ones. These sites do have our odd shrills and trolls on there. I mean, we came across an enforcement agent who's in these groups, and it's been black and white, isn't it? That like you shown the you checked his name out on the certificate of bailiffs register, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah. Well, for those listening who don't know what the certificated bailiff register is, it's a list of private bailiffs who have been granted certificates by the county court. It's maintained by the Ministry of Justice, and these are the ones who go around enforcing parking tickets, unpaid parking tickets, unpaid council tax arrears, and court fines. If you don't pay your court fine, yeah, you might get one of them kind of knocking on your door, demanding money or trying to force their way in. Now, these guys are given, or women, there are some women, they try to make themselves up to be court bailiffs. Now, court bailiffs are
well, the county court bailiffs, aren't they?
That's right. You've got
make them out to be county court or high court, and I can think of one particular company that makes themselves out to be high court enforcement officers.
Yeah, yeah, because you got various types of bailiff. You've got your county court bailiff is a civil servant who's employed directly by HM Courts and Tribunal Service, which is part of the Ministry of Justice. They normally enforce county court judgments, and they carry out evictions. Then you've got a certificated bailiff. They're private bailiffs. They normally collect unpaid council tax, non-domestic, national non-domestic rates, otherwise known as business rates, unpaid magistrates' court fines, and unpaid local authority parking tickets. And then you've got high court enforcement officers. They used to be called sheriffs, but they call them high court enforcement officers now. They enforce writs issued by the Queen's Bench Division at the High Court and the Royal Courts of Justice in the Strand in London. And they also carry out certain evictions as well. But then you've got these what I call, they're not actually bailiffs. They're actually debt collectors, and they try to make out they've got powers of bailiffs. And when you actually kind of put pressure on them and say, well, where's your bailiff certificate, or where's your warrant card? Oh, I haven't got one. Oh, you haven't, right? You see that piece of stone there? It's called a pavement. Make sure you're on it, please. Got absolutely no power at all.
What was it I was going to say with this this bailiff that we named and shamed? You checked him out on the register, and he said, "Oh no, I'm not a working bailiff anymore. I want to come on and help and give advice." Now, there was an administrator in the group that I think he privately messaged him. Don't want to get my facts wrong, and the gentleman actually, this bailiff actually blocked the person. So what does that tell you, ladies and gents? The proof's in the pudding. I'm not being funny. If you get like bailiffs, if you're gonna come into these groups, at least go to better lengths. Not to come out that you're too ill to work and you're not competent enough to work, but keep your certificate just in case you return, especially with something as big as a brain hemorrhage. And that was a big insult, because I was the one that commented on this post. My mother died of a brain hemorrhage, so you picked the wrong person to try and lie to.
Yeah, right. No, but about bailiffs, if somebody does come to your door or approaches you and said they're a bailiff or a high court enforcement officer, don't take what they say at face value. Always ask to see identification. Now, those who county court bailiffs always have a warrant card. It's normally in a little leather pouch with the royal cipher. That's what you see on the wall behind a judge in a Crown Court. That's the royal cipher, and it's usually stamped in gold or silver on a black leather pouch. And when you open it up inside, there's almost like a credit card sized plastic card with the person's photograph digitally printed onto the card with their name, details, etc. And the older ones will have HMCS, Her Majesty's Court Service. The newer ones will have Her Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service. That's a warrant card. Okay. And they'll normally come up to you and they've got the little badge hanging out over their pocket. But if you say, "Can I see your warrant card, please?" Most of them will say, yeah, okay, and they'll just show you. Some won't even, you don't even have to ask them. They'll show it to you and say, right, I'm Mr. So-and-so, or I'm Mrs. So-and-so, I'm a county court bailiff, I'll come back to this.
Yeah.
Should be. High Court enforcement officers, they have a certificate issued by the High Court. It's normally, now they are appointed by the Lord Chancellor, or the Secretary of State for Justice, or whatever you want to call them. Theirs are slightly different to, I don't think those have got Aging Courts and Tribunal Service on there because they're all independent. They're kind of self-employed. With certificated bailiffs, now I have seen them trying to mislead people. Some of them, I say. Some of them,
say,
yeah.
From the High Court, I'm from the court. I've got a warrant for. I've got a warrant of control here, but it's actually a liability order for sort of parking tickets. That's or
right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Council tax.
Yeah. What they normally try and do is they try and con you by showing a little credit card sized, well, it's like a badge. It's got their photograph on it, who they work for, and the word bailiff or enforcement agent. Those are not bailiff certificates. They're not a warrant card, and they're not worth the plastic they're actually printed on. The one you need to ask them to see is their bailiff certificate. And if they say, well, this is, so the answer is no, it's not. A bailiff certificate issued by a county court to a private bailiff is postcard size with the narrow edge downwards. Now in the middle at the top will be a passport-sized colour photograph of that bailiff, and the court will either overstamp it at one corner on one side, or they will use an embossing stamp die, and they'll emboss it. Underneath, it'll have the bailiff's full name, their home address, the company they work for, and the name of the court, and that's written in ink. And then when that's all been done, the certificate itself is then laminated. It's encapsulated in very thick plastic. It's to stop tampering.
See, that's the way I look at it, Michael. Yeah, if these bailiffs, walking, they're doing all sorts of mad stuff. I mean, there's one particular company, one particular case I dealt with the other day.
I remember it. I can remember it because I was talking to you on Skype and it suddenly came up, didn't it?
Yeah, a friend of mine rang me and said a bailiff's just pushed me into my door, walked in, and started to try and write down in the warrant of control to try and levy the goods. I don't understand how, because my friend literally in her living room has children's toys in there and a television and a sofa, right? Now, this is what I don't understand, is when the police came, my friend phoned the police and I phoned the council, and the council recalled it straight away. So they knew something was going off. And you know what? It's the same company over and over again. Over the past few days in particular, I have seen the same company's name come up on different social media groups, and it's all come up with the same thing. Same company. How do I make a complaint about Bristow and Suter, or as I affectionately like to call them, bog rolls and shitheads? Because that's exactly what they are. They are a bunch of shitheads, as far as I'm concerned.
They have got other names like Busted and Stupid, Brainless and Stupid, and Bustles and Hooters.
Bodgett and Scarpa. That's one, but that's a genuine company.
Bodgett and Scarpa's, but now you've got to be careful because there is actually a company called Bodgett and Scarpa Enterprises. They sold some very, very nice Italian-made coaches. they're up in Lancashire. No, with Bristow and Suter, I mean, it's the managing director of that company is Simon Suter. And I don't think he's going to be too pleased with his bailiffs after finding out that two or three local authorities have had calls to complain about the behaviour of the bailiffs he employs. Now, these local authority contracts are very lucrative. I mean, those things can be worth anywhere between 20 to 28 million pounds a year to that company. And to lose one of those is a terrific chunk of that bailiff company's revenue gone. And I've noticed, not just Bristol and Suture, but also with other companies like Marston's and a few others, the local authorities are getting a lot more scrutinising of these companies. There's one in the Midlands somewhere. What happened was is there was an irregularity with the details on a warrant of control for a parking ticket, I think it was. And when the debtor contacted the council, he said, "Hold on a minute." He said, "The time on this thing doesn't correspond with the time you've got on your records." And the guy said, "Hold on, I'll come out and have a look." Yeah, he compared the two. He said, "That time on that warrant should be exactly the same time as on there." So what they did is they suspended that bailiff company's contract, and they've asked the bailiff company to explain why there's a discrepancy between the two times. And basically, it's a case of if they can't explain it, they lose their contract. Now, I won't reveal the name of the council or the name of the bailiff company because there could be court proceedings out of this. And I believe that the debtor is going to take one of them to court. But going back to Bristol and Suture, I mean, the case involving your friend Stacey, and there were two or three others came up on social media.
Almost near enough. Well, one of them was on the same day.
Yeah.
And the other one, and the other two, I think, was within the same. Well, this is within the same week.
Yeah,
so
I know one. Yeah, I mean, there was that one where a lady kind of came out, and there's this old bloke standing in her hallway, and she went. She asked if he was screaming out her ID. She said, "Who are you?" And actually, she know the brute kind of bent her over a double, and he's pushing his thumb or his finger into the back of her neck. And what did the police do? They arrested her. It shows what muppets they are. But I think you actually converted the police the other day with that one in your part of the woods, didn't you?
Well, what happened was, obviously, I had a friend of a friend standing outside the property with a mobile phone. So he had two. He had one video. Well, he said he had one video in, but when I went to go and look at the footage, it was really blurred. But it happened that quick. I think he dropped the phone at one point. So obviously, I said, "Don't drop this phone." And I went, "Right." I went, "Are you aware of Section 26 of the Criminal Justice and Courts Act?" They said no. And I said, "Well, what on earth are you doing enforcing the law that's there now then?" And well, Michael heard me. I actually implied that one of them didn't have a brain in between their ears.
I could vouch for
that. And basically, one of the officers was looking at it through a smartphone, and he went, "Oh wow." He was like, "Oh," and his eyes widened on all accounts. And they drove down to the bottom of the street and did a quick U-turn all the way around and arrested the bailiff. Unfortunately, he wasn't actually formally charged, but he did have a caution. So when the bailiff was forced to ring my friend and apologise, I took the phone off of the friend and said, "Listen, this is Stacey McLennan of Bailiff Unity Patrol. I suppose you'll be remembering my name from now on." And he says, "Well, I already know your name already." And I says, "That's fine, no problem. You'll be hearing more of me, because I'm telling you now, with the police knowing what you've done, you won't be able to fart without them actually knowing about it. You do realise that now, because you're on their radar."
Yeah, that's what happens. Once they get you like that, when they do it, you become known to police. I can remember that one as a policeman, and we used to stop people in London.
Police about
they would come back known to police, and you say, "Oh, what have you been doing?" Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
it follows you around like a bad smell.
I'm known to the police because of something really, really ridiculous, like the most pathetic little thing. But I think they do this, Michael. I think they get these people that are active, as it were, obviously exposing the truth, and they want to do some, and they're thinking, right, let's do something about this, and let's get someone pinned. So they pin you on any little thing, to try and get you.
Try to discredit you, but the thing is, it backfires on them, because in order to do that, they have to break the law, and this is where Section 26 comes in. If I just could bring something in a minute, Stacey. I'm going to bring in the.
Hang on, let me just.
Sorry, put it in. There we go.
Oh look, that's, you can see my little emblem there. What's that? Criminal justice set.
Yeah, it's a criminal justice and court set. We're getting nothing more like it. That's the usual.
If you go into.
Just bring up. There we go.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah.
Right, you got the Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015. This is the one that Stacey was talking about. Now, the bit that normally seems to have the policemen and police women
emptying their bowels.
Very worried is yes, is if I can find it. Yes, it's subsection 2. It says a police constable guilty of an offence under this section is liable on conviction, on indictment. That means the Crown Court, to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 14. Yes, that is 14 years, or a fine, or both. Now, if you can imagine a police officer being sentenced to something like that, it is a hell of a long time. And if they've done something really serious, though, they could be inside for quite a long time. So this is, I mean, what I think you spoke to an inspector from Northamptonshire Police, didn't you, Stacey? And he was quite concerned, wasn't he? Because they hadn't even told him. I mean, this came onto the. I mean,
they asked, the guy asked when it was enacted, and I said, I believe it's the 12th of February, and it was actually enforced. So there's two very different things. It actually goes through. That's what it means by enacting. They're just putting the word out there, basically, and they're actually when it's enforced, that means that's it. The law's passed, mate.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the enactment, that's when it receives a royal assent. But the what they call the enforced date, that's when it actually comes into force, and that's when it applies from. So
well, basically, what I said was, do you want 14 years up your jacksie? And he went, well, of course I don't. And I went, well, that's cool, that's great. Well, you know where you stand then, don't you? And he was like, no, I'm going to speak to my people that are senior above himself and ask why he hasn't been trained in it.
Yeah. I'm beginning to find. I'm finding this as well. I mean, a lot of police officers, they don't even know. And I said, well, what have your senior officers been doing, staring at their navels?
Surely, Michael, doesn't this breach? I mean, if the chief constables knew about this, and they didn't do adequate training, then surely there should be something in there with employment law that the constables could actually sue the.
They can. The police federation would be quite within their rights to take on the chief constable. But you see, the thing is, the police and crime commissioner could also sack the chief constable. They've got the power to do that. And but I'm beginning to smell a very nasty political agenda somewhere. They're trying to get rid of the sworn police officers and slide in the likes of G4S and things like that. Well, I mean, people just beat the living daylights out of G4S.
I'm rolling my eyes.
Don't tolerate them. But I mean, the police officers we've got. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you've got a lot of very good, decent, honest people putting on that uniform and then taking a risk with their life every day. But you've also got just as many idiots who put it on and they undergo a personality change and beat the crap out of people or behave like they're on unofficial leave from a psychiatric unit. I mean, I heard a conversation between somebody on in the Greater Manchester Force, a sergeant in the Greater Manchester, and the way he was carrying on, I'm thinking, is this guy just got out of a psychiatric unit or something? I mean, I just could not believe what I was hearing. Trying to tell this person who had an unlawful act committed against him by an officer, a police officer, being told, "Oh no, you can go. Oh, you can go all the way to Strasbourg. Oh no, they'll back us." And I'm thinking, no, they won't, because the onus is on you. I'm thinking, no, it doesn't work like that. But one thing I have found out now, this is going to show. I'm just going to put some on the screen. These are common law sheriffs, which I can see taking over very sooner or later. So I'm just going to. Oops, press the wrong button. I'm just going to screen share a minute.
I'll just put it up for you, mate. So the way I look at it is, Michael, is that G4S, I mean, they're common purpose. I mean, one of them tried to fucking force their way in my house about bloody what's its name? A meter reading.
Yeah.
When I went to slam his door, when I went to slam my door into his foot, get his foot out my door, he said he'd do me for assault. I'm still waiting. So
no. Right. Those of you who can see this map on the screen, you see all these little red sort of and green and kind of peachy coloured sticks, kind of pins or whatever they are. Well, these are common law sheriffs and the common law courts that are sprouting up around the country, where people are getting disaffected with the existing judicial system. The judicial system we thought we had is broken. It is completely broken. It lacks any legitimacy now. It has been corrupted. There are judges who are expressing concerns about this. Some don't want to be part of it, but they're being forced to. I mean, that's what you see there. I would say 6 months ago, you had a few down in Cornwall. You had one up in Somerset. You had a couple in the Midlands, and now look at it. You've got more in Cornwall. You've got them in Kent. You've got them up through Somerset. Devon hasn't got them yet. Soon can be changed. Also, along the south coast, up into the Midlands, up into the north of England, and you've got one up in Edinburgh, which is a law firm. But these are people like Stacey, myself, and you, who stand up for what is right, and they try to stop unlawful behaviour and also criminal behaviour. So they're unpaid volunteers. A lot of them. They don't do it for the money. They do this to make sure people are protected. And to be honest, I prefer a lot of these people to be on the streets rather than the likes of G4S or some other rent-a-flag security outfit.
Indeed, yeah, indeed.
Much safer.
See, this is what this is all about, isn't it? You know, the power of the people is stronger than the people in power at the end of the day. And I think, do you know what? With this boots on the ground in Stoke with Reese, I mean, he's been to a lot of demos. He's been to a lot of wake up events. He's been here, there, and everywhere. Bless him. And he's even going to be here, there, and everywhere this weekend, from what I'm getting. I think he's gonna wind Mad Dan up a treat.
I'll say one thing for Reese. He's what I call an old head on young shoulders.
Yeah, you'd never think he was 21.
He's 20. He may look 21. He may be 21. But I'll tell you something. That guy has got. He's got a lot of wisdom for someone of his age, but also he's a fantastic composer, a fantastic musician, and a fantastic singer.
Yeah, he's not.
He's got a gift.
Michael, come on.
He's got a gift for music, but he not only can he play instruments. I mean, I was watching him on Skype last night, and he had a guitar. And the way he was playing it, you could see he was part of that guitar. It's his passion, and the keyboard. I mean, it was pitch perfect, almost pitch perfect, I would say. But I mean, he is a very gifted musician, composer, and singer, and he's got a damn good singing voice. And yeah, it's a pleasure to hear him sing. But I mean, some of the lyrics he comes up with. Oh yeah, he's a lyricist as well. Some of the lyrics he comes out with. I mean, some of the things he's done. I mean, I've been here in my living room and sort of absolutely crying with laughter. He really has got a unique gift. I mean, if you can kind of go to iTunes and download any of his work, I think it's Lee Reese. He goes into the label. Please
Yeah.
do. I mean, the guy is a genius.
I think,
Seriously.
you know what, like, I think of Reece, yeah. I haven't known the dude that long, you know what I mean? But he's been to my house, he's stayed at my house, like, I had a bar, drove like well, what was meant to be a two and a bit hour journey turned into about 7. Well, he didn't drive down, it was Jay Brad's girlfriend, Candice. Big shout out to her because she's brilliant. I love her. And he's just got such even though fair enough he was stuck on the M6, but you know what? I've never seen even his energy. I mean, he was walking around through the traffic, singing sheeple just to entertain people. Like this is what his passion is. And I think, you know what? He's got the potential one day to actually really get the word out there. But I think he's gonna be quite successful with this. He already is.
Mm.
He already is. I mean, obviously not financially because he doesn't do it for financial gain. He does it more for just entertainment. Not for, I suppose, for himself. I don't know.
The thing is, music can be used as a very effective medium to get an important message across. Likewise, comedy and humour can be used in the same way. I mean, I've seen advertisements where it is quite funny, but the thing is, you remember that advert because it is so funny.
So,
this is when it's used appropriately and it's used wisely, it can be a very, very effective way of getting a message across. And this is what Reece seems to have kind of captured that, latched onto it, and he uses it to right to the very sort of edge. He knows how to get the message across in a way that sort of people get the message and they'll be entertained at the same time.
What was it I was going to say, Michael? Have you got any advice for Reece in regards to this? I mean, this matter is very closely approaching. It's happening on Tuesday. So, I mean, what would you, on the day, what would your advice be to Reece as if you were here? Well, as if you were there.
I think if you're going into court to have an order like that suspended or revoked, you need to make sure you go in. And this applies to anyone who is faced with eviction. Go in suited and booted, and by that I mean make sure you've got a decent pair of shoes that are polished. You've got a clean shirt, white or pale blue. Don't go wearing like you just walked out of McDonald's. A dark suit like black, grey, or blue that is acceptable, or dark green, very dark green, is acceptable to the courts. I mean, as long as you're looking smart, it does make it. I mean, they say that, and making a good impression. Yeah, it does. And with a judge, if they can see you've gone to the trouble of presenting yourself in that way, and if you're able to advocate for yourself, and an avocation is when you present a case. I mean, Stacey has proven herself to be a very, very capable advocate, yes, I think you had a success with one case, didn't you, Stacey?
Yeah, I mean, I can't take all the credit for it, you know what I mean? But I mean, at the end of the day, I've been alleged to be a liability.
Well, she's not. With advocacy, it means you're having to do things like a lay advocate, which is what Stacey is, and also I am. It involves doing up things like skeleton arguments, and that's not two skeletons having an argument. That is a document which sets out to the judge very briefly why he should find in favour of your client or you. Witness statements. I mean, there's one chap who had been evicted, as it now turns out, unlawfully evicted and unlawfully possessed. And I did a 6-page double-spaced witness statement, which basically hung the other side out to dry. And he went into court with that, and I said, make sure you have 3 copies of it, one for the judge, one for yourself, and one for the other side. And he got into court, handed one to the judge, handed a copy to the other side, and he asked for this, and the judge said, well, it's gone a bit too far. And he said, I will just look through this. And he starts looking through it, and the other side says, cheeky little sod of a solicitor says, oh, we apply for a sale order. And the judge kind of finished reading it, closed it, put it to one side. He said, no. And the solicitor kind of went, what? He said, you have it, no. And the chap who I'd done the witness statement for he got in touch with him, and he said, I went in, he said, and he turned around and refused him. I said, good. If you do, I mean, Stacey, I think I was recently I were having Stacey with a skeleton argument, and I was watching Stacey type this on screen share on Skype, and yeah, Stacey's like myself. She goes very much by instinct, and this is what a friend of mine who retired as a barrister said. A lot of his instinct was Civil War, and you put in little bits of the person you're helping, the bits that kind of give it its substance, and then you start adding bits like case law, existing legislation, and things like that, so the judge can see what it's all about, what the other side have done, and the outcome you're looking for. I know when you go to court, it's very much like a chess game, a game of chess, and if you know how to play chess, you're basically trying to. The aim of the game is to get your opponent in checkmate, or in this case, kind of make your opponent look the absolute devil incarnate, and that's the whole idea. When somebody kind of gives me a case, I'll start picking it apart and seeing if there's any holes in it. And sometimes you can pick some very big holes, ones to kind of drive a coaching horses through and have a bendy bus do a U-turn and not even touch the side of it. So, yeah, this is what lay advocates do. If there's anybody out there listening to this who has worked in the legal profession and is now
need not apply,
but no, who want to do something to help the community, or people who have got legal knowledge or have got professional knowledge, which they feel could help people who are obviously denied justice because of the way the Tories have messed around with the justice system and almost made it sort of a rich man's privilege. Yeah, please come forward, because your services are needed. Even if you're in retirement and you're looking for something to fill your time, that can make a big difference to somebody who's possibly, if you're familiar with housing law, your input could be invaluable to somebody possibly facing eviction or trying to be evicted by a private landlord. I mean, don't think because you've retired you're useless, you're on the scrap heap. You're not. You've got a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge to help a lot of people. I mean, sometimes somebody's got a repair problem or a maintenance problem. You might have skills you've acquired and trained for all your working life, and you're thinking, well, I can help that person. Go for it.
See, the thing is as well, I mean, I have a lot of life experience from day dot. Basically, there has been injustice in one way or another in my own life, and I do bring that to the table. I mean, I don't claim to have legal knowledge, but I've picked bits up on the way. I've learned. I mean, I've sat back and I've watched and I've listened and I've taken note and brought things in. So that's what I tend to do, and this is what I think a lot of people need to do sometimes: is sit back, watch, listen, read. That's the only way. It's the only way you're going to get through it. I mean, Michael, how like I say to Michael, is it this again? Like, is it? It's slowly getting drummed into me.
Yeah, I mean, the experience I've had. I mean, when I got back to school, I worked in the retail trade. Then I was in the police for just nearly 9 years. Then I had an accident, so I wasn't able to work for a while because the injury I sustained took a while to sort of sort itself out. And then I ran my own business. I was in printing and publishing, so I had to learn intellectual property law for that. And then I went into the care sector with shop ability, which is like a sort of occupational therapy sort of thing. And I got taken ill again, and then when my late mother became ill, I was nursing her, and then it got to the point where the professionals, the doctors, the geriatricians, and the geriatric nurses said, right, it's time for you to let it go and let us take over. And those doctors and nurses, I'll tell you something, they're fantastic people. People not the NHS. My experience personally of the NHS is you've got some very, very gifted and very, very caring people. I mean, last October, I was rushed in to my local teaching hospital by two very, very nice lady paramedics, but I'll tell you something, their professionalism was, I mean, I could not fault them. The moment I arrived at the accident emergency department, luckily I bumped into the charge nurse who was on duty. He was promoting World Nurses Day, and we happened to recognise each other. So I was able to say thank you and catch up with him. But from the time I went into the A&E department to the time they discharged me on the this was on late on a Saturday night, to the time they discharged me on the Thursday morning, I cannot fault the care I had in that hospital. I mean, don't knock the NHS. It's got its problems. Yes, we know that, and we know who is causing it. And it's a charity called Common Purpose that's put these malevolent individuals inside who really and truly are trying to work way beyond their experience, way beyond their knowledge. This is mentality of, oh, leave beyond authority. No, you stick to your comfort zone and you step out there unless you've had the proper training to equip you with the necessary skills and knowledge to go that bit further. Yeah. But what they're doing is they're collapsing it from within. And the reason they're doing it is so people can't see what's going on. Well, there are people inside the health service who have seen what's going on. And when they try to do something about it, they are bullied, they are intimidated, they are threatened. For crying out loud, I'm going to say this to all NHS staff. If you know this is going on, don't let people take these malevolent individuals on their own. There is safety in numbers. Gang up on these people and drive them out of the health service, because if you don't, they're going to collapse the health service. They'll be given lock, stock and barrel over to these American for-profit companies, and that'll be the end of this our national health service. And I'm not saying to frighten anybody. This is what they're trying to do. So please, please, ladies and gentlemen who work in the health service, get rid of these malevolent individuals. Even the Royal College of Nursing have never had a strike in their 100-year history. They're going on strike for the first time in the next few weeks, the weeks to come. It's unheard of.
Yeah, indeed. What I'm going to do is, Mike, I'm going to wrap this up. I've just had another, Wesley P.P. Hall of the homeless movement that he's doing up in Manchester. This is a statement that was on his social media wall. I can't actually believe I've travelled all the way to Manchester after being contacted by McDonald's. This is going back to the McDonald's thing, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Head office yesterday for a meeting, and they're not willing to discuss anything. What a joke. The franchisee who owns all the McDonald's in the city centre has told the manager not to speak to anyone, but this is the young lady that tried to give the homeless man some food on her own, meaning they're going to bully her into saying something and then try to chastise her article in the paper. Basically, they want the 19-year-old in a room on her own whilst they make her feel uncomfortable. I was going for moral support and to milk some intervention out of them. The fact is, the franchisee is telling staff members that there's a spurious new policy from head office that refuses homeless people. We even have staff members coming forward willing to make statements publicly. We should boycott all the stores. That's from Wesley P.P. Hall. To make of that, Michael, or that policy.
Right. I think what is very telling, Stacey, is the fact that McDonald's staff are willing to come forward and make public statements about this this policy. I think when your own staff are concerned about it, you really and truly want to listen to them. You don't want to just kind of say, "Well, I'm the boss. You do as I say, not as I do." No, I think people have just about had a belly full of that, and employers really do need to sort of get it clear in their minds. If they do not start treating people properly, they're going to walk and they're going to have no business left.
So any final messages for our friends at GCHQ, our friends that have been listening tonight from all over, perhaps, and
for GCHQ, I hope you learned something interesting. We always set out to educate people, especially those who think that we're domestic terrorists. We're not domestic terrorists. We are people who care very passionately about other people. We also care very passionately about this country. We also know there are some very malevolent individuals at work who are determined to turn this into a tyrannical dictatorship. And I'll tell you this now, people are not going to tolerate it. And they're hungry people like you listening in to us. So if you think you're going to regard us as terrorists, no. The real terrorists are in the City of London. They're the economic terrorists. And your domestic extremists are they're on the government benches in the House of Commons. So there you go.
Duncan Smith.
Yes, Giggle Piggle, the Thunderbirds puppet. Yes, Gideon. Oh, he hates being called Gideon. You know what I mean. George up his face.
I've got a message for GCHQ. Go take your faces for a shite. Anyway, guys.
Very nice.
Anyway, guys, that concludes our little broadcast on Unity Peace Patrol News. Sorry, it's such a short one. It's just that I've got to shoot off to work quickly and stuff. So anyway, guys, remember the power of the people is stronger than the people in power. And thanks ever so much for listening tonight. And thanks, Mike, for coming on as usual. Always a pleasure.
And you, Stacey.
And thanks, Reese, for having a sing song and getting me to sing and make me sound like a strangled cat.